Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's Coaches Press Conference. Before we get started, I'd like to invite the Mayor of Glendale, Jerry Wires, up to the podium for a special presentation.
Well, good morning, everyone, and I'd like to take just a brief moment to thank these coaches for coming back out to Glendale. I think you guys are making a habit of this, and that's okay. We like that. But I'd like to present both of you with a Soretta's chocolate basket, finest chocolate, in my opinion, in the United States, for you folks to enjoy. And I wish you all the success. Both of you, thank you so much for coming out. Good luck to both of you. Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll now open it up for questions. If you could, again, please raise your hand so we can get a microphone to you. We'll start here in the front row on the right.
How much have you talked to your team about the 2014 example, and what effect do you think that might have for the schools?
Actually, you have talked to them quite a bit. I think it was you can't use the word perfect, but it was a very good template we used as far as a young team, getting as much game experience as possible in practice, getting ready for the playoff run. So we did use it quite often. There's the other thing that happened during that run, in which Dabo has the same, every team that wins a championship, there's going to be a handful of players that maybe are not well known that are going to become very well known. We happen to have a tailback that's doing okay now too. That during that 3-game run, Zeke Elliott, you had Stevie Miller, Curtis Grant. They're kind of legends at Ohio State because of their performance in these games. So I use it more in that because that's real.
We're going to go far left here over by the trophy.
Good morning, Urban. What were your takeaways from working at Notre Dame, both for Coach Holtz and Bob Davie?
I just saw Coach Davie yesterday. I still, when I see him, how happy he is, and he's, in my regard, one of the great coaches in college football, and took over a very tough situation. The parallels between the two, they're both excellent coaches, but they're very different in their approach about their business. Very good friends with both, and appreciate what they did for myself and my family, because Lou Holtz hired me, and then Bob Davie retained us at Notre Dame, and we had, I think it was 5 or 6 great years there.
We're going to stay on the far left.
Dan Uthman from USA Today. In your previous playoff appearances, you each have played in the early semifinal. I'm wondering tomorrow what you guys will do in terms of looking at that first game, whether you're going to play it on the bus for the players or you'll just have some staffers watching it. What about that first game do you expect to see it all in real time?
No, there's no time. Our days are incredibly structured on game day, all the way till we literally get on the bus. We'll have a little walkthrough about 20 minutes before we get on the bus, and if you see any of it, it's just briefly when you're back in your room for a minute or two getting ready to go. But no, we certainly don't play it on the bus. We'll be locked in on what we're trying to do, and that's it.
Yeah,
Got a question here on
I
the
wasn't
left.
sure there's a playoff game before ours. Is there?
Question here, second row on the left. Sport.
What are the core values that we instill? Well, pretty deep question. It'll take a while to answer that, but I'll just speak on behalf of our team, is that I always want to have a team that's not worried about making mistakes, and we call that 4 to 6, A to B, that's the length of a play, and I've never been a part of a game that the team that didn't play the hardest did not win. The second one is power the unit, and that's we have 9 units. If we can perform when talent is equated or sometimes better than yours. You have to perform with every unit playing at a high, high level. And the last one is competitive excellence, and that's just the reason we practice so hard is because when your number's called, you got to make that play. And it's not because of the lucky T-shirt or, good fortune. It's because of practice. So that's in a nutshell.
You mean the game day underwear? That's not the key
I'm
ingredient?
not saying I don't wear them, but that has nothing to.
I mean, I thought it was the lucky underwear. No, yeah, we all, and I read that in your book, by the way. Awesome. 4 to 6, A to B. I've got 9 units. I mean, I'm getting it. Hey, the guys won 1,000,000 games for a reason, so I'm no dummy. For us, we just keep it simple. We really make it the same as far as, and I think you have to. I mean, we all know the magnitude of the moment in the game, but and I think Coach would agree, you have to prepare for every opponent and respect every opponent, but you have to have a formula of preparation, a formula of excellence is what we call it, and for us, it's preparing with purpose every day, because when you do that, then you have a sense of urgency, which brings about an attention to details, and then from a football standpoint, it's not just great effort. It's great effort with an emphasis on technique. You can run around and give great effort, but if your technique stinks, you're not going to have good execution. And then it's just all in commitment to do the best you can do. I mean, that's all you can do is be able to look in the mirror at the end of the day and know that you controlled what you control, that you did the very best you can do. And that's really what we focus on, regardless of who we play. We all know when you play teams like Ohio State, the margin for error gets really small because they have great players and great coaches, and you just don't have a lot of room for error. But the formula is still the same. It's prepare with purpose every day. That's because you're competing in everything: your meetings, your sleep, how you think, everything. And then it's a game of effort, but it's technique. It's how you do your job, and then it's just being fully committed to being the best that you can be, doing your best each and every day, each and every play.
We go to very far left.
Dabo, what is it about Deshaun Watson beyond the stats and beyond what we see that makes him a special player?
Well, I think you see obviously his skill set. I would think that you would see his poise, and those, to me, his poise really makes him incredibly unique because he just never changes. But it's who he is as a young man that you don't really know until you're around him. Most people just see a great player. He handles himself the right way and all that. But who is he really when you pull the curtain back and you're around him where nobody's looking? And that's what makes him special. It's who he is when nobody's watching. And just really a great human being that just happens to be a good football player. And that's what I love about him.
We're going to Tim May here on the right.
Yeah, Urban, you talked a lot about 9 units strong, things like this. That's what you need going into this game. What is your sense right now of confidence that that's going to happen? And number 2, do you ever feel, you're 61-5 at Ohio State, do you ever feel confident totally going into a game like this? What are your last-minute thoughts, I guess, as you get into something like this?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I think you feel confident when you have better players than your opponent. It's not rocket science to figure that out. Obviously, when talent becomes equated, that's that whole 9 strong philosophy that, as Dabo said, the margin for error is going to be very slight, and there's a fine line between over-preparation where you have them so worried about clusters, about different schematic things that players quit playing as hard as they can. So that's the fine line that we've been juggling right now. But you said, what's the confidence factor? Usually pretty confident when we get better players than the opponent. When you don't, then it's it's all about the preparation and making sure they're playing as hard as they can.
Far left again.
Okay. Stuart Mandel from Fox Sports. For both of you, Stanford will play its bowl game today without Christian McCaffrey. You guys have every year a lot of highly regarded NFL prospects. In the unlikely event you ever miss the playoff again, are you concerned at all that some of your guys might take that same path?
Well, I mean, I have not experienced that before as a coach, but, you know, it's a copycat world, I guess. So, I mean, it could come, I guess, somewhere down the road. But I think, again, as I said a couple of times already, I'm not going to sit in judgment of other people. I don't know their circumstances. I don't know, you know, what led to those decisions and things like that. Sometimes you don't, as outside, you don't know what a guy's doing every week to get himself ready to play. Maybe he's battling through an injury, things like that. I don't really know. But I think all things being even, you know, to me, and that's why I'm not for a 8+ team playoff and all that, because now you got a lot of people sitting at home. You got a lot of teams that there's nothing wrong with ending your season on a win. And, you know, I think that's what makes college football unique. But at the end of the day, I think if that's the case, you just shouldn't play your senior year. I mean, if that's, you know, I mean, you can get hurt in any game. And to me, every game is huge. And I said the other day, if we don't beat Troy in September, we're not sitting here. Every game is big. And I think that it's about team and always have. And I think that there's always risks involved when you play this game. And certain players always have insurance policies and things like that. But I think they're all big. And I think to have an opportunity to go play is huge. But I think guys have to make their own decisions. And as coaches, at the end of the day, I just need 11. That's it. I need 11 guys on offense and on defense, and we'll find 11 for special teams that want to play. And if a guy doesn't want to play, I promise you the guy behind him does. And at the end of the day, that's all as coaches you can control is getting the guys ready to go play. And that's what my focus would be. I don't know that we'll ever deal with that, but if we do, it is what it is. You move on.
Third row on the right.
Marla Ridenour, Akron Beacon Journal for Coach Meyer. I just wonder, when you're with Coach Swinney on these Nike events, do you have a favorite story about when you've walked away laughing or something he said, or just, you know, how entertaining are those times together?
Oh, yeah, I got plenty. I can't do that. Because what stays at Nike, what goes on at Nike stays at Nike. And that's Phil Knight's mantra, so
That's right.
I want to go back to the Nike trip.
We'll stay here on the right in the second row.
Urban, 10 years ago, you were out here with 10 years ago, you were out here with a Florida team winning that first national championship. Does it really seem like 10 years ago, or is it a blur and life goes along that quick?
It does not. I remember that we had to do a video or something because it's a reunion for that great team. And I'll be honest, I forgot it was out here. That's just the way it's a time warp. And it was a great moment. That was the first one. And I still to this day remember everybody on the sideline celebrating and me screaming at them and saying, "It's not over yet. It's not." And it was pretty much over. And then we ran a bubble screen with about a minute and a half left to Percy Harvin. And he nudged the ball past the first down marker. And I thought, even us, we can't screw this up now. And I remember just the knees start shaking. And it was a special moment, though. And I think the great John Madden said it best, is that, Bill Parcells said it, that once a team wins a championship of that magnitude, you're forever, it's like a blood transfer, you're forever brothers. And that's the case, because we're still very close.
On the left here, front row.
Todd Summers, WSBA TV. Coach Swinney, what do you remember back in 2013 when you had Raekwon and Jalen at your camp? And they told us earlier this week that it was at that camp they started talking and deciding between Clemson and Ohio State and ultimately settled on the Buckeyes. What do you remember about them?
Great young men, first of all. And, you know, the reason everybody was recruiting them was because they were phenomenally talented young players. But just good young men, good families. Enjoyed recruiting those guys and have enjoyed watching them. You know, believe it or not, I'd never really recruited against Ohio State until Coach Meyer went there. And once he went up there, and I think he brought some of his ties and recruiting experience from being at Florida. And it seems like now there's a lot of guys that we end up recruiting. Ohio State's kind of always in the mix. And I think that ultimately, that's why we've both been successful, is we've got good staffs, but we've had good young people, good players. And he's done a great job of identifying guys and building a culture at Ohio State. And we've tried to do the same, and that's why we've got on some of the same type of people, because they're really good players. But I mean, you get around Raekwon, I mean, he's just a great young man, and it's great to have those guys because you can win and win the right way with them.
I'm going to stay here over on the right near the speakers.
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, for both coaches. What goes through your mind when you hear people say, you've got it going, you guys have it on cruise control? Dabo, you've rebuilt Clemson. Urban, you're 61-5 at Ohio State. In the context of getting back here, how hard is it to get back and win this whole thing?
Well, I can just speak on my personal journey that in '06 I kind of was mistaken. I remember in the locker room after the game saying, now it's time to coach for fun. We did it. That might be the furthest from the truth, because the journey and to build is exhilarating and enthusiastic and energizing, and the maintenance part is, I said that the other day, and so I'm more cautious than ever about making sure it doesn't become that grind. And it does. To say it's not real. Dabo's going to experience that, the more success that he's built this monster that he has to continue to feed, and same thing that happens here. Mac Brown did a great article the other day about that. And Mac Brown's a dear friend of both of ours, and I've had many, many conversations with him about, you create this monster that people are upset when you go to the Sugar Bowl. What are you talking about? Damn, you went 12-1. So I learned a lesson. I made a promise to myself, and more importantly, our players, I will not let that happen to the best of our ability. I don't care who shows up at the bowl game. We're going to try to make it enjoyable for our players.
Yeah, same here. I think that obviously we had a little further to go 8 years ago when we kind of started out on our journey, but I've just appreciated every step of the way. And all of the teams that we've had, all the young men, we have a great foundation in place. And I think it all goes to us. We just try to stay focused on our core values. And I'm constantly reminding our fan base to enjoy the journey. I know there's an expectation, but I really want to focus more on having appreciation of our young players and what they do and how hard they work. So we try to stay focused on that. We try to serve our players' hearts, not their talents. And I think if we keep that focus, then we'll continue to be about the right things. I don't want to ever. I personally, winning is not our number one goal. It's just not. We want to win, but it's how we win. It's how we're graduating our players. It's how we're changing and impacting their lives, preparing them for what's next. Are they having a great experience? Are they excited to come back to Clemson? Do they have great relationships? It's a relationship-driven program. And that's what we focus on, and making sure that we have fun. I don't want to ever become a team or a program that when we win, it's just a relief. I want to always have an appreciation for how hard it is to win, and understand that sometimes you lose. That's okay. It's how did we bust our butt? And you're always growing. You're dealing with young people, and the roster changes every year, and you always start over. And I think as coaches, sometimes when you talk about get on cruise control, if you had a lot of success, you just kind of assume certain things, but you can't do that. You have to me, you start over every year and you reinstall your core values of who you are as a program and why. And maybe those seniors have heard it 3 times, but you know what? They didn't get it all as a freshman and sophomore as a junior, but by the time they leave as a senior, they're telling the same stories. And 15 years later, they're repeating those stories. Well, now they got it. And so I just think you got to stay committed. And for us, it's making sure that we stay focused on the right things.
We'll have our last question here over on the far left.
Ralph Russo, the Associated Press. Dabo, kind of building off the last question, Coach Meyer was describing what he felt like when he won a national championship. It's pretty much the only thing that Clemson hasn't done that all these other great programs have done. I'm wondering when he's describing his feeling for after having won a national championship, what your thoughts were, description.
Well, I can visualize that. I mean, I've been there. He's exactly right. You know, I've had several. I had some teammates this week come out to practice that you know, I played with at Alabama, and I know what it's like to reach that moment. And he's right. You're brothers for life. When you do something like that together, you never forget that, ever. And I mean, we had a reunion back in May, and I mean, it's been 20 plus years, but it was just like yesterday. I mean, immediately you see these guys, some of them you hadn't seen them in 10, 15 years, and it's like you were sitting back at Bryant Hall with them yesterday. And that's what an accomplishment like that does. It is a bonding experience. It's an unbelievable pinnacle. And, you know, for me, you know, a lot of times people ask me, like, what's one of my greatest memories, you know, as a player and stuff. And I think a lot of people expect me to say maybe it was some play or, you know, the national championship game itself or whatever. And that was great. But that's really all fleeting. It's really the journey to get there. It's the grind. It's the work that you put into it. It's the overcoming of adversity. But it's the moment in that locker room when you're with a group of people that have gotten it done and laid it on the line. And there's just nothing like it. You just can't describe it. And if you could bottle that up and take that out into the world, man, you dominate. And it's because it's a special bond and love, and it's awesome to be a part of. So, you know, I can definitely see it and visualize that, and hopefully we'll have our opportunity to hold the trophy up one of these days. We're going to keep getting into the batter's box and keep swinging, and hopefully one of these days we'll get it done. And we got a chance this year, but they don't give those things away, man. You got to go earn it and play well, and you got to beat the best, and that's what we're playing. The best of the best.
Thank you, coaches. We'll now move over to our photo opportunity at the trophy. Again, we ask our still photographers, if you would, to stay back so we can have the videographers on the podium get their shots first, and then we'll open it up for still photography. And again, please make sure that you stay behind the white tape. Thank you.